Hello everyone, let's look at maximum subarray. The problem statement is we are given an integer array nums. Find the contiguous subarray containing at least one number, which has the largest sum, and return its sum. For the example 1, the input array is -2, 1, -3, 4, -1, 2, 1, -5, and 4. The output is 6. Because 4, -1, 2, 1, that's a subarray has the largest sum, which is 6. To solve this problem, we can definitely loop through the array and find a subarray for individual index, then compare the max value. However, we want to have a more elegant solution. First, let's handle the edge case. If the input array, the length is 1. If the input length is 1, then the maximum subarray is itself. The max value for the subarray is the first element, and the largest sum value for this subarray is also the first element. Let's look at the code. And then, if the input length is 1, we can simply return our max. Obviously, for the next step, we need to loop through the input array, but the starting index is 1. Inside the loop, for each iteration, we need to determine if we should incorporate this value into our subarray, or we use this item as the first element for our subarray and discard all the previous item. Let me repeat. For each iteration, we need to determine if we should incorporate this value into our subarray or use this item as the first element for our subarray and discard all the previous item. We determine this by comparing if adding a new item into the subarray will make the sum value larger. Then we update the max value and sum value. Don't worry, if I have confused you, I confirm it will be clear in our code logic. Let's look at the code. The if condition here is this is how we update the sum value, and then let's update the maximum value. Like I mentioned before, for this current nums I, we do the check if this value will make our subarray larger. If that's the case, we add the value to our sum. Otherwise, this value will be the first element for our subarray, and all the previous subarray will be discarded. And then we update max. If this still doesn't make sense, let me look at this first example here. So we have nums I, sum, and max. For the first item, this is -2. This is also -2. That's the first element for this input array. For the next iteration, nums I is 1. We add nums I and sum. Then we get -1. And then we compare if -1 is greater than nums I, which is not. So the sum value will be 1. That's nums I. And then we also update the max value. That's also 1. For the next element, that's -3. We add -3 with 1. We get -2. Is -2 greater than -3? That's the case. And then the sum value will be -2. What's the max value? It's still 1. Next, we have 4. We have 4 plus -2. What's the value? The value is 2. Is 2 greater than 4? No. So some value goes here. Some value will be 4. That's nums I. The max value will also be 4. Next iteration, we have -1. -1 plus 4. The value is 3. Is 3 greater than -1? Yes, that is. Then sum is 3. And then what's the max value? That's still 4. Another iteration, we have 2. 2 plus 3. That's 5. Is 5 greater than 2? That's the case. And then we update max to 5. Next value, that's another 1. 1 plus 5. That's 6. Is 6 greater than 1? Yes, it is. Then we update max. And moving on, we have -5. -5 plus 6. That's 1. Is 1 greater than -5? Yes, that's the case. So some value is 1. And then the max value is still 6. The final one, we have this 4. 4 plus 1, that's 5. Is 5 greater than 4? Yes, that's the case. But the max value is still 6. In the end, we return max. So this is the whole thing. We loop through the input array and we keep updating those 3 values, actually these 2 values, and then we return max. Let's submit. It passed all the cases. That's good. Let's look at the complexity. Very obvious. For space, it's O of 1, constant. For time, it's O of n, proportional to the length of the input array. If you happen to look at other people's solution for this question, their if condition might be different. They might have sum greater than 0. But looking at these two, they are actually the same. By having this, we clearly state that we want to compare the nums I and sum plus nums I. And then, in other places, you might see another statement. In some other places, you might see a statement like this. This and the whole if condition pretty much do the same thing, just update the sum. Thank you for watching. If you have any question, please leave a comment below.